From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
Hey there, SportsLine on your television. Steve Lehman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Monday night on News Channel 5 Plus. Tons of stuff going on in sports today. Kevin Stallings introduced as the new head basketball coach at Pitt. Vanderbilt talking about who they might replace Kevin Stallings with. Certainly a lot of names out there at this point. No concrete evidence of the direction that David Williams, the athletic director, wants to go. Western Kentucky introducing Rick Stansbury today. We first reported that Friday night. Got information that he would be the head coach, officially introduced today on the Hill. A guy with 293 career wins, lots of SEC experience, a Kentucky native. If you're a Hilltopper fan, I think you have to be very excited about Rick Stansbury coming back and trying to build a great program there and take Western Kentucky back to the heights and maybe surpass the heights that they've had in that basketball program in the past. Predators trying to clinch a playoff berth tonight against Colorado. Not off to a good start. Down 3-1 against the Avalanche after one period. Just a lot of stuff going on. The coaching carousel continues to heat up. I think some interesting things about the last few days is, one, that Kevin Stallings left for Pittsburgh. I think a lot of people wondered what the end result would be when it came to Kevin Stallings after this season. So much disappointment over the fact that this team just never got it going really during the regular season. They get into the tournament, but then they get blown out by Wichita State. I don't think Kevin Stallings was going to be done at Vanderbilt. I've heard kind of both camps of it, even people who are kind of in the know over there. But from what I can gather, I don't think David Williams wanted to make that move. Maybe he was hoping this was the end result and he wouldn't have to make that move, but he has such a great respect for Kevin Stallings, and even said today at the press conference, Kevin Stallings was a really good basketball coach. And I know some of you will disagree with me on that, but I'm the athletic director here, and he was a very good basketball coach, and he did it the right way with respect and graduated players over 17 years, and that should never be forgotten. And it shouldn't be forgotten. Kevin Stallings is the winningest coach in Vanderbilt history. He led them to some of the really high peaks in Vanderbilt history, and he did it with class and in graduating players throughout the way. That shouldn't be forgotten. But at the same time, sometimes time is just time. It's time to move on. And I think this is a case where Kevin Stallings gets a fresh start at Pittsburgh. He said today that it was the first time in a long time he'd been contacted about a job. Most of the others he had turned down, but about a job, and really thought, gosh, I'm excited about that opportunity. That could be fun. I really want to get behind that, and that's where I want to go. And so that's why he went after this one. And it's a chance to do something fresh, to start over, and you get the feeling from hearing him talk today, this is truly the last stop. He went to Illinois State, then he went to Vanderbilt for 17 years. At times there, I think he thought that would be the last stop. But he wanted to make one more run, one more change, one more fresh start someplace. Now he has that opportunity at Pittsburgh. Vandy fans, though, I think are also okay with that. They wanted the fresh start themselves within this basketball program that seemingly has plateaued in recent years. The two best teams over the last 5 or 6 years that Vanderbilt was supposed to have really didn't meet expectations for the seasons they were supposed to have. You had 3 years in there where you didn't make the NCAA tournament. You've had a couple recent NCAA tournament appearances with high seeds in which you couldn't get out of the first round. So there's been some frustration there. The dangerous thing whenever you get rid of a coach or you lose a coach like Kevin Stallings is what's next. Can you match what he's done? In the history at Vanderbilt, even in the basketball program, which has had more success than some other sports, is that this isn't a powerhouse program. This isn't a Final Four caliber program. That's the history. Not to say it can't be there, but for those who say, oh, the only the 2 Sweet 16 appearances or only the 7 NCAA tournament appearances, you wonder if you have to caution a little bit of be careful what you wish for, because that's not historically bad at Vanderbilt. In fact, that's very good at Vanderbilt. And so can the next guy match that is the real question. Let alone can you get somebody who can far surpass that at Vanderbilt. Some interesting names out there for sure. Will Wade, Nashville native, 1 year at VCU, got the Rams into the tournament and won a game. He's a guy that I think a lot of people would be excited about here in the city of Nashville if he would come home and take over Vanderbilt. I've talked to several people close to Will Wade, and I think there's some real question whether he would take that job. VCU pays well, and no, it's not a Power 5 job, but it is a power program within a conference just on the fringe of the Power 5. This year, they're in the NCAA tournament. They didn't win the conference, but they're there. That's what he has at VCU. He has a well-supported program. He's paid fairly well, and it's a program that's had success over and over with a pretty good recruiting background. To come back to Nashville and take over Vanderbilt, that may not be as enticing as one might think for a guy who grew up in the city of Nashville. But Vanderbilt also has the opportunity to pay a lot and make him think really hard about it. Offer the opportunity to come home. So I would expect that there to be some contact there with Will Wade. And I think if it would happen, there would be a lot of people very excited about that. Some other names out there for sure. I think if you're Vanderbilt, you have to explore Gregg Marshall at Wichita State. He's had so much success with the Shockers. 10 tournament wins over the last 4 years. They were a number 1 seed a couple of years ago. The year before that, they made it all the way to the Final Four. But if Gregg Marshall's ever going to leave, you talk about the timing is right. Kevin Stallings, it was time to move on. If Gregg Marshall is ever going to leave Wichita State, the timing is right. Ron Baker and Fred VanVleet are both walking out the door after their magical careers in Wichita. Is this now the time that Gregg Marshall thinks, okay, I can pick things up here and now go get that Power 5 job, make a little bit more money, make a run someplace else, and get that fresh start? I think you'd be wise if you're a Power 5 school, Vanderbilt or elsewhere, this year, looking for a job and you think Gregg Marshall could be a fit. I think you would be wise to give him a call this year. You better be prepared to pay. You better have a good package in order. But I think if he was ever going to bolt, now is the time. So to me, if I'm David Williams, that is my first call. Figuring out if Gregg Marshall could be interested in my job. My second call goes to Buzz Williams at Virginia Tech. Formerly of Marquette, did a great job there. Has really turned Virginia Tech around in just a couple of seasons. They had a very solid regular season this year when nobody expected it. That's still not an easy place to win, though, and as we've seen in the ACC, that conference is just loaded right now. Would you be able to entice Buzz Williams for a job in the city of Nashville? He lived in Milwaukee for a bunch of years at Marquette, so give him that urban environment again. Give him an SEC job, one of the better jobs within the conference. Would you be able to interest him there? And again, I don't think money will be an issue for Vanderbilt. I'd give him a call. I'd make him tell me no. The more realistic candidates, though, as you get down the list, I think probably, as we mentioned, Will Wade, VCU. I think James Jones at Yale is a guy that should certainly get a look. Talk about fitting the culture of bringing in guys who are student athletes and plan to graduate and plan to get good grades and do all that stuff. That's what James Jones does at Yale. And, oh, by the way, he just got them to their first NCAA tournament appearance in 61 years, I think, and won a game. I think James Jones is a guy that should get a call, should get a talk from the folks at Vanderbilt. Tommy Amaker, Harvard, a similar position. He seems so entrenched at Harvard in recent years. I don't know if you could get him to go, but certainly potentially worth a call because, again, he understands the academic aspect to coaching at a school like Vanderbilt. Lots more names out there. Ben Jacobson, Northern Iowa, I'm a huge fan of. Bryce Drew, Valparaiso, huge fan of. So there are candidates out there, but what direction does Vanderbilt go? The other interesting thing is you get the feeling David Williams, the athletic director at Vanderbilt, he thinks big picture. He likes the whole aspect of stuff. Talked about the student-athlete piece, the culture piece at Vanderbilt, as well as just the coaching thing. I think he also sort of views his role as making Vanderbilt a very progressive athletic department. And if you've noticed, the last two football hires have both been black coaches. And in an era where a lot of emphasis has been placed on the fact that there aren't enough, frankly, black coaches out there in college football and college basketball. Will that be important here? He said today, when that question was kind of hinted around, he said, I will hire the best possible coach. But is that in the back of his mind? Is that something he would like to do in the basketball program? Because that obviously changes your search a little bit. If you're going in that, then obviously Tommy Amaker and James Jones rise to the top of the list pretty quickly. Jeff Capel, associate head coach at Duke. Does he jump into the list if that is your first focus? It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this search takes place over the next several days, maybe weeks, and who they are able to attract. That'll be the fun part for Vanderbilt and Vanderbilt fans here. But again, the situation they find themselves in today, I think, is good. I think sometimes you just need a fresh start. And whether you're the biggest Kevin Stallings fan in the world or you were the Vandy fan that said, I'm tired of this, we need something new. I think when you sit back at the end of the day today, you probably have to come to some middle ground. The Kevin Stallings was a pretty good coach for, by and large, the majority of his 17 years at Vanderbilt. Did some good things for that program, operated in the right way. But may also be some time for new blood. There have been a lot of coaching changes in the SEC, a lot of upheaval. Heck, you've added 2 teams to the conference in the time that Kevin Stallings has been the coach at Vanderbilt. Maybe it's time to get some new blood in there. And so now they will, and I think that process is going to be exciting for Vanderbilt fans. All right, we need to take a break. We'll come back. We'll get to some of the stuff from today. Talk about these coaching changes and much more. Stay tuned. You're watching SportsLine here on News Channel 5+.